Hello, everyone. That was wonderful. Thank you so much, presenters, for such an incredible presentations. I'm sure everyone in our audience is as excited as I am to hear from all of you. We're going to head right into our Q&A right now, and we have a few in here. And I encourage you all to put your questions in the Q&A section, and we'll get through them. I'm just going to skim through some of them. We've already got some of our presenters responding. So the first one was, how was the first school in the school board selected? And Philippa wrote back about how the schools were decided on by the school board at the same time. They had a wide range of schools in Kelowna. The board determined both schools were selected, neither and you can read the rest of that. There are many integrated supports already based in those schools. So they chose the two schools that have a demographic that sits somewhere in the middle. So thanks so much, Philippa, for responding to that. Kaylee Birdie also asked, what definition or scope of youth homelessness were you focusing on with your project? And I think I can give everyone a shot at that one. So I'll start with Justin. Would you like to just take a look at that one and respond, and then we'll go to Philippa and then David. Thanks.
I'm sorry, MJ, I was responding to the chat and I missed the question.
Okay, fair enough. We're all just kind of muddling through here. Thanks so much. What definition or scope of youth homelessness were you focusing on with your project?
So I think that was a question that came up during David's presentation. So I think it was directed at the upstream work that was happening there.
Okay.
I can speak. Yeah, I can speak to what that looks like for us here.
I would love that, actually. I think that's a great idea. Yeah. Thanks, Justin. Yeah.
So for our FNS program, we're really trying to work across the continuum of homelessness. So our primary outreach strategy is to youth in shelter, so already experiencing homelessness, with the objective of supporting a successful exit. But we have no wrong door to our FNS services. So we also provide upstream support to youth who may be living at home or living in their own housing who are at imminent risk of homelessness. And then because we want to provide that integrated and flexible support, we provide follow-up support when youth exit shelter to help support and maintain housing stability.
Wonderful. That's great. Thanks, Justin. Appreciate that. And Philippa, would you like to take a go at that one?
Sure, I'll take a swing at it. I tried to answer it in the chat too. Yeah. So our scope is focused on prevention versus intervention. Kelowna has many intervention strategies to assist with individuals that are struggling with homelessness or that are at the doorstep of our shelter. So our scope is limited to those that are in that prevention phase, right? So we see risk factors that are occurring. Our scope is also limited because we want to assure that when we're offering support to young people and families that we're able to meet the request for support. So our school board and our stakeholders did decide to only survey or assess 2 schools and only 1 grade, right? Ideally, we'd be doing all of our schools and we'd do all the grades, but we just wouldn't have the capacity to serve all those young people and families. And we learned that from another project, right? And so our scope right now is 12 to 14-year-olds, and our goal is to address any barriers to housing stability or school disengagement or to school engagement, I suppose. And so our services include meeting the family and the kids wherever they're at. We do a lot of access to mental health, connecting them to recreational resources. We do a ton of family mediation. We work with young people and their families on communication skills. We do a lot of work on life skills and strengths building, anything to build up that resiliency. We see a lot of issues around anxiety and struggle at school and a lot of peer relations as well. So anything to build up that sense of self-confidence, anything to get them to see that they belong and that they can feel confident asking questions and getting the resources that they need when they need them. Does that work?
It does. Wonderfully. Thank you so much. And as Philippa mentioned, she also wrote that as well, a response. So we're doing a little bit of both today. David, would you like to take a go at that one as well, or?
Sure. I would just mirror everything that Philippa said. We're doing very similar things here where we're prevention focused. If that question came up during my presentation, it may have to do with, I did have a couple of slides that talked about We had some initial difficulty working with parents and teachers and schools about homelessness and how it was defined. What we learned was there was a very narrow definition of homelessness with our schools, with school personnel. You know, really that kind of old definition of sleeping outside, sleeping rough, and that led to a lot of questions about why are we targeting grade 7s? They're not, in those situations for the most part. So that's probably where that question came from. So the reason we kind of went back with it and we started talking more about school engagement, and this is preventative work. So we're not saying that, a lot of your students at the grade 7 level, age 12, 13 are in that, sleeping rough definition of homelessness, but rather we're trying to prevent future homelessness. So that was just a piece of work we had to think about, and we went back and we talked with the schools, and the schools and our group, and I think Philippa had the same experience, if I'm not mistaken, where kind of a bit more focus about and a bit more attention paid to this as a preventative program rather than working with a specific homeless population currently.
Thank you, David. That was brilliant. All three of you, thanks so much. I think that was a great question. I thought it was quite broad, but you really, all three of you honed in on really important parts of aspects of scope and definition of youth homelessness and getting at what it really can look like in terms of prevention. So Brenda Witherspoon Bernard asks us, does the student needs assessment identify the individual student? And I know that Philippa responded to this. Did you want to add anything else to what you've written there, Philippa, or? And you don't have to.
I don't think so. I think it's pretty thorough, right? So we had to address this on a regular basis, especially with like parents and teachers who had questions before we implemented our first assessment. And it's really key, and we worked on that for our second implementation to be quite clear on how we're maintaining confidentiality and how this is a confidential assessment, right? And we've made that very clear to young people as well. So yeah, we only ask young people to put their student numbers on the assessment. Those student numbers and the results of the assessment get sent to York University for the researchers to do the analysis, and they don't know who the students are based on just a student number. And they send us back a list of student numbers that have been identified with some level of risk.
Well, there we go. And I just want to say too, I should self-identify. I work with these teams as well in the national. I'm part of the national support for this program, and that is really critical to the access. So students and families need to know that their confidentiality is being respected and their privacy. So that is a critical part. So there is a whole process put in place around holding the data at York University. It will be destroyed after a period of time, and nothing connected to individual students. Nothing goes on student records. It's really, really safe that way, and that encourages access. So the point of the program is to ensure that everyone has access to the supports, and that we're not picking and choosing based on our ideas of who might need them. So thanks for that, Philippa. I think that's good for that question. I'm just seeing if there's, I got a few more I'm going to approve, and then I'll direct them. Let's see. Right. Okay. Scope, I think I've got that one. Needs assessment. Juggling a little bit. Oh, Bonnie, great. I may have missed this, but were all school boards elementary school for upstreams? Yes, I believe so, correct?
Our schools, sorry, go ahead,
Philippa.
I'm not doing a great job here of moderating. Do you want to go ahead? David, go ahead. And I'll let you.
Yeah, I mean, if you're asking, we have elementary schools, that's a grade level. So here in Newfoundland, it was called junior high school. So it was grades 7 to 9. For us, our junior high schools run 7 to 9 for the most part. And we decided to focus on the grade 7 population so we could follow them through their junior high school years for 3 years.
Yeah, great point. Yeah, and sorry, Philippa, did you want to add in there?
Yeah, we also had middle schools, but one of our schools does transition to high school after grade 8. And so that is why we actually implemented our second assessment in the fall, so we could have an entire year with that school. And we did the other one in the spring, knowing that we had their grade 9 year to continue case management at the school level there. So yeah, middle schools for us.
Great. And Justin, did you want to talk a little bit about the age range that you're working with and in terms of prevention, early intervention, et cetera, and how, yeah, that span a little bit different with your programs, but I'll
Yeah.
bring that up.
Yeah, it is a little bit different for us. So our age range with our FNS program is 16 to 29. The change we made very early on is we initially set the program up to support 16 to 24-year-olds because that matched the youth shelter population. What we recognized very, very early on in the program was that when youth were getting close to aging out of the youth system, so getting close to their 25th birthday, there seemed to be this shift in motivation and interest in engaging with family and natural supports. So maybe a recognition that young people are about to lose these support networks that they were most familiar with and most comfortable with. And we're going to be transitioning to adult services. And that seemed to lead to a lot of referrals for 24-year-olds, 25-year-olds who were seeking to re-engage with family and strengthen their network of supportive people.
Wonderful. And we know too that you're starting with the Youth Reconnect model, which is a related model to Justin's, and that'll be, I think, shifting to younger people, and working with schools more closely as well. So that's a new thing.
But yeah, that's up and coming.
Yeah.
Yet to be launched.
Like that.
But that'll help move our prevention efforts a bit more upstream, and we're looking at serving youth between 14 and 18 with that program.
And I didn't skip, but Sharon Ganji has asked a question about our databases. So I'll direct this to Philippa and David, I think, first, and so we have enough time. The first part of the question is, I would be interested to know if there are databases that are used to store the information and assessments, and I can respond to that. We have mentioned it. The assessments around the upstream program are all held at York University. But also, what does the reporting process look like to keep everyone updated? So the data is stored at York University, but certain information comes to the communities, and maybe I'll let Philippa, actually, David, do you want to just take a look, a response to that one, and then how about how we keep everyone updated? So I'll give you a few minutes, David, and then Philippa. Thanks.
Sure. Maybe I'll quickly go through the process. So here in Newfoundland, all our students who did the student needs assessment did it online. So they did it through just a website link, and then that link was automatically uploaded to the researchers in York. York then got those results, and like Philippa said, they went through them, and then they sent back student numbers to, in our case, to our school principals. And they got student numbers of students who were potentially at risk for future homelessness. And then after that process, we then worked with the schools to contact those students and start to work with them. So we don't keep any of the data locally. That's kept at York University on their servers. So we just, at the end, we get back a list of student ID numbers. The school matches those numbers up with names, and then we contact the students to do our first initial interviews with those students. Not sure if that answers the question, but certainly can go on if
that's important, David. I really appreciate you describing that, because I think it's important. Those steps are key to that. Philippa, did you have anything else you wanted to just add in there around how you keep everyone up to date?
Yeah, so I think that there's a big difference between the way that David's upstream project is set up versus the way that Kelowna's upstream project is set up. David has the opportunity to work within choices, right? To have all the programs under one roof accessible to the young people, so they can actually share information quite freely amongst each other and amongst programs within that organization. Where in Kelowna, we've collaborated with outside stakeholders and outside agencies, and so that has been a challenge for us. Originally, when we first got started, I was looking at using YAP tool, so the Youth Assessment and Prioritization Database, and seeing how we could align that with the upstream stakeholders and to manage our case management and our reporting. It just seems that the YAP tool is a little bit higher risk, or much higher risk, than really where upstream's at and what we're working with. So we don't currently have an ideal database that can sync everyone's work and put it together. So currently we are just meeting once a month as a steering committee and requesting frontline workers to provide progress updates, challenges and successes along the way, and to reach out for help in that way. I also just make myself readily available using my phone and my email for stakeholders and frontline workers across agencies to reach out to me if they need any extra support, if something comes up that's beyond their capacity. And then I can report back to the schools as necessary or to other agencies as necessary. This is something that we are going to work on going into our second year to try and align that a little bit better and come up with a better, more efficient process to make sure that we're keeping tabs and being able to support each other on a regular basis.
Amazing, amazing responses. Thank you so much for that. The level of detail is so key, I think, for folks from outside to understand how this works. I have 2 remaining questions. We're over time right now, but I'm going to quickly run them, and whoever wants to respond, I think they are sort of focused on upstream, and they're really about that follow-up and sort of what happens next. And we'll just let everyone know that this program is in its early stages, and we've just run certain, a couple of cohorts this year. So Aaron Griver asks, does the program follow the student if they switch schools from the same school board? And then Sharon also asks, how are follow-up sessions conducted after the youth move on from the program? So I know those are questions that we're really grappling with right now in terms of that. I don't know, maybe Philippa, we've had a few conversations. Do you want to just respond to those, kind of like it's to come, or how that goes?
Yeah, so as students move on, so for one example, I ended up getting connected to a young person that was moving on to high school within the next year. So I worked with her over the summer, and I now connect with her as she's at a different school, but we have already been connected. I'm going to continue my work with her as long as she currently needs me and as long as I have the capacity to work with her. And I think that's it there. We also had an issue where we identified a young person at our last implementation that actually moved on to a different school before we even got our analysis back. So within that 1 week period, do I know how to address that? No, that's a new thing that's come up for us. And then having moved on from the program, we right now don't have a black and white system in place. We don't have a real exit plan in place. Currently, I've got one family that I feel like we've probably closed the file, but I continue to connect with them as things come up or on a monthly or bi-monthly basis, just to check in and make sure that they have what they need.
Amazing, thank you. We are at sort of 4 minutes past. And I have a number of questions that kind of popped up here again. I think Jacqueline Canely, sorry, Jackie, how are you? I may not be able to get to respond all of this right now, but what we can do is we can direct our responses to you later, if that's okay, Jackie, in terms of youth raising the issue of bullying, upstream pilots with Way Home Canada COH, those types of things. We're just really out of time, and I was cautioned not to go too far into the break time. And then Alvin as well, we'll reach out to you around from all 3 of our presenters. So at this point, I'd really love to thank Philippa, Justin, and David for these incredible presentations. And you can see really, how much work is being done at the community level to really shift our work upstream and prevent youth homelessness. I want to thank you so much, participants, for joining us today. And we will be able to get back to you with our responses to those we have not yet responded to. So thanks so much, everyone. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful conference. Take care.